That the table captain, you could direct a question at me. Some of you were confused at what I was looking for. It could be as simple as where do I live? It's just a very innocuous type question, but again, to try to increase familiarity with everybody. So I'll start over there. I don't know who the table captain is. Dave? Keep it clean.
Tell us about your business life. What did you do?
Okay, I was a former educator. I graduated Rider College and Rowan University. Actually, it's a bit unique. I graduated Rider College, and it changed its name to Rider University. I graduated Rowan, and it changed, or Glassboro, and it changed its name to Rowan, so I'm a little bit self-conscious about that. But I taught for 10 years at Camden County Vocational. Administrator at Haddonfield for 10 years, and my last 20 years was as a elementary school principal for the Buena Regional School District. So actually, when I retired, I was told by a state official that I had the most certificates of anybody in the state. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I had 5 teaching and 4 administrative certificates. Oh, question over here, Dave?
Yes. Why did you decide to become president since you live 3 counties away?
You know, that's a very good question, and I'm glad that you really asked that. For those that know me a little better, I had some major medical issues. I've had cancer twice, and I'm around. I'm happy. So it's sort of my way of giving back. As long as I keep going, my 3rd pacemaker's doing fine, and I feel great. And I'm still playing softball for the team. So thank you for asking.
When you were principal, how many kids did you suspend over the 40 years?
Anybody got a calculator? At an elementary level, we really tried not to do that, but there were occasions where if they brought in a weapon, you didn't have much choice. So I did once have to take a 5-inch knife off a kid that was a 5th grader. He was on the school bus with a 5-inch knife, and although he was a 5th grader, he was 6'2", 225 pounds. So that was a...
And he kept shouting, "Take me to keep it."
Yeah, that was a little scary situation. Over here, table captain.
I hear rumors that they're planning on moving the meeting somewhere else. You know anything about that?
No, I don't. I mean, we're always looking for a permanent home, but I have not heard anything of that nature. It would be great if we had a permanent home, yes. Okay. Okay, so that, that's the format we're going to try to do with this. Again, if we have a visitor or a guest, we'll give them that same opportunity with questions from the group. And Mike?
What's your hobbies?
My hobbies, definitely fantasy football. All sports, and I do exercise almost daily. And I enjoy reading. It's nice. I am retired, so I'm able to enjoy those things a lot more now that I have a lot more free time. Okay. Okay, so we'll proceed with the meeting, and I'm going to ask Dick as membership.
Can I have the agenda?
Sure.
I'll just
right here.
Yeah, okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Dick Norton. How much you want to know about me?
You're an open book.
Okay. First of all, I'm membership.
Rachel.
You guys don't know it. I do leave the station, but I enjoy every minute of it. I believe we passed out a survey form the last few meetings, but I know, what is this for?
That's for Doc.
Oh. It's quite a group, isn't it? Miss, you're really enjoying this, I hope. Anyway, for those of you that haven't filled it out, they're really important. It lets us know what your interests are, both athletically and in terms of this group. As you know, we have speakers every month. If you have a particular speaker that you'd like to that we think we can get. As you know, we normally don't pay for speakers, but very often we get very interesting people. Anybody not fill out their survey form that's here? Maud, I'll see that you get one. Sure. Anyone else? You all filled out yours. Okay, great. Name tags. We're going to be getting new name tags. I was hoping Jerry Emdur would be here, but we're going to have a new insignia with new name tags, hopefully in the next couple of months, if not sooner. Hopefully sooner rather than later. And thanks to David Nidoff, I want to thank him profusely for helping us with our new /brochure application, because what we passed out today, give you an idea. I'm sure most of you are familiar with our application. We're updating it to show some of our more recent activities and spruce it up a little bit. If anybody has any ideas, it's too late. I'm not taking any more ideas on that application. And did I miss anything?
I
I
don't
think that's it. Okay. Well, thank you.
Can't take that back.
And you want this too, I guess.
Take this back, and my agenda.
Your agenda.
But yes, Dick has done a great job, along with Dave, on getting us organized on our surveys, and we really do appreciate it. It really is coming along. Probably our next big project is to try to clean up our internet site a little bit and get it updated too. Okay, our next is Mike on the bench, and our goodies there. Got two goodies here.
Good morning, everyone. How many people remember the newsletter that we had for about 15 years called The Mensch? Yeah. Okay, less than, I'd say about a quarter of you. We'd like to re-establish it and get it going again. So we need a few people to step forward and help put it together. It was a printed publication before. Sometimes it got out to about up to about a dozen pages. It kept everybody abreast on what we've done, what we're going to do, and news from our membership. So if there's anybody who has even moderate skills in desktop publishing or is proficient with Microsoft Word, please contact me or Don. Okay. Now, the next thing that I'm up here to explain to you is just an update on the things that people are bringing in. We have 4 items. We bring in toiletries, and the person in charge of that, I think, is Dave Schwartz. Would you just mention what it is that happens with the toiletries we bring in?
Well, we'll take anything, generally hotel-sized toiletries, toothpaste, shampoos, etc. Please, however, make sure that they're reasonably current. I've got a couple shipments of stuff that was not good, and I don't usually look at it. I just dump it into a big box. So make sure it's in good condition. And in recent months, I've been taking it to the Jewish Family and Children's Services here, rather than the other prisons, churches, etc. that we've taken it to in the past. And they're very grateful for it.
And a word on that, I found it quite easy when I travel and I'm in a hotel. I just go to the front desk and I'll say to them, I'm with a group that collects toiletries that distributes them to shelters and places that are in need of them. And almost always, they'll give me a big bag of things to bring in. So rarely will I be asked, very rarely, that they need a letter or something. And I say, thank you, we'll have something. And of course, I'm not going to bother with that because there's so many other hotels around. The other thing is sometimes when the people come to clean the room, I'll mention it to them, and they'll always drop off a handful of extra items. So when you go to a hotel and you don't use a lot of the toiletries, just don't throw them out. Bring them home and bring them to the next meeting. That's number one. Next thing is eyeglasses. We've been bringing in eyeglasses for years. That's Richie Moskowitz. Is Rich here? Rich, could you come up and speak a moment about that?
I appreciate all the eyeglasses that come in. I take them, I clean them up, and I put them on the shelf, but I can resell them. No. No. How do you think I give it 2 pairs of glasses for $29? It works that way. No, I'm a member of Lions Club, and Lions Club was founded with Helen Keller to help the visually disabled. And the eyeglasses get sent up to Trenton. They clean them up, they mark them. And all the eyeglasses go overseas. We can't use them in this country because of legal ramifications. But they go overseas, and people wear eyeglasses, they can start seeing again because of your help. Thank you.
Thanks, Richie.
Can I add something on that?
Yes.
There are several, like Richard said, if you go to a doctor's and they have
What
them
am I
there,
missing?
you can also leave them there, but then it
Oh,
goes
books and
straight
something
to
else.
the side.
Something else.
So,
Toiletries,
you know, if you guys can bring them in, you're going over there, I would suggest you leave them there too. We know where they are.
cell phones.
Thanks, Rich. Because that's what I do with my doctor. I take it to him and he handles it for me.
Well, you'll notice that there's several other things that we've been bringing in. One of them is cell phones. Larry, people come in with their cell phones that they're no longer using, and Larry is the one who takes care of distributing them. Larry?
Yeah, we've gotten in well over 150 cell phones that have been since over the last 6 or 9 months. What we do is we give them to the police station, and they make sure that it goes out to battered women. That's where most of the stuff is taken.
Is there a way that they wipe them clean, or is there a way?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Does that include, I assume that includes smartphones as well, right? Too?
Yeah,
Just
whatever.
bring it in, let them decide. Another item that we've been doing lately is a book exchange. And that's pretty simple. That's a matter of you bring in any books, you'll see some over here. You pick one up that you like and bring some in that you're finished with. And I know quite a few people have participated in that. And lastly is something new, and I'm going to ask Ed Silver to speak about that, and that is about the food bank and Jewish Family and Children's Services. And you'll notice over here there's about 15 or so canned goods and other kosher items for the Jewish Family Services. Ed, could you talk about the program that so many of us participated in?
Well, basically, we had a speaker from the Jewish Family Service, which encouraged us to bring in kosher, non-perishable food items, which will go to the food bank here for Jewish families in the area. Recently, they had a community-wide food program where people, and there were hundreds of volunteers from the synagogues and we had a few from the men's club, where food was brought in and categorized and distributed.
I asked Barry if he would do the
Other
bench.
than that, I wasn't sure there was anything else to say.
Barry had.
That's
worth a try.
Any kosher
Yeah.
or items non-perishable?
Non-perishable kosher.
Cans or...
Cans, pasta.
All that stuff.
It has to have the U symbol?
You or the cat.
You or the cat.
The program that they had, was it a week ago, 2 weeks ago? There must have been several hundred. Say again?
Yeah, Tipper, there was a big program. I know they asked the synagogues to bring it in, and you're coming in for Cold Midra. We did it here. I know. We had some meat beats there, and we had some collection there.
Yeah, it was quite an operation. A lot of teenagers were involved. It was good to see them getting involved in it too.
If you frequent dollar stores, every once in a while there's kosher items there. So you can drop $1 or $2 and you'll have something you can bring in here. Well, thanks very much and keep up the good work.
I'll need that microphone. That microphone.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you. As you can see, we do a lot of things. Each little thing adds up to a much bigger picture, and I think that's the strength of our organization. I'd like to ask Marty if you would come up and talk about the mitzvah cards. Very important program that's been slipping a little bit.
Yeah, the Mitzvah Fund, I'm sure most of you know what it is about, but in case you don't, I will go through the whole thing with you. Mitzvah Fund is a fund that has been established essentially where we take some of the proceeds of that fund and we give it away as a donation to various organizations. It's funded predominantly by your donations, and your donations essentially are, if you need to have a card sent out, let's say for a sad occasion, a very joyous occasion, you call or contact via email Len Berman, and he will send out the card for you. It's a minimum donation of $3, and $3 is less than what you would pay for going down and get a Hallmark card. And that even includes the postage. Essentially, we accumulate the money and then we give it away as part of a donation. I'm going to give you, and you probably won't remember it, but I'll give it to you anyway. His email address is lenandtoby@msn.com. So again, all you have to do is send him a request or call him up, and he will send it out for you, and then a minimum donation is provided at Stein. And that's all it has to be. Yes. It's Len, LENANDTOBY @msn.com. And if you want his telephone number, it's 768-2771.
I'll have Randy send that out to everybody.
Right. Unfortunately, it has gone down quite a bit. In the past, we did quite well, but for whatever reason. So we hope that you will get the thing reactivated again.
I think we actually raised it to $5.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, $5.
Okay, yes. Thank you, Marty. Before I go on with some club recognition type things, I did speak to Nelson Meltz yesterday. He's going to probably be helping us out with the audit to finish up what Marty has done with the Treasury. I asked Nelson if he could come today so we could see him. He did get an honor through the Veterans Administration. I asked him to come today, but he's given up the lox and bagels because he was meeting with the governor today. So maybe at some point, Dave, we might want to get him in to give us a report on his conversation with the governor.
Has the governor given up the lox and bagels?
That I don't know. Okay, as far as club recognition, as was stated, we are trying to get new name tags for everybody. It's been a long time since we did, and what our goal is once we get the new ones, is to give you your old ones so that when we go to help out an organization, whether it's the Sukkah construction or taking it down tomorrow, whatever event we go to, we really need to get recognition for it. And if you wear your name tag, that'll show that you're from the South Jersey Men's Club. In addition, I had the idea that we have a number of softball shirts available, and Mike is going to be handling that for us and just bringing them to various events. And if it's like the Sukkah and you're there tomorrow, if Mike is there, he could give you one, throw it on, and then as far as recognition, people know that the South Jersey Men's Club is represented and doing the helpful type things that really serves as our foundation. So these will probably be available. Then I'm hoping Mike could take them, and if they're soiled, take them home, wash them, and give them back to Mike. Or just a show of hands, how many people would be interested in actually purchasing a shirt with our emblem on it? Can I just get an idea? Is there? Oh, you have it already? Don't have to worry about it. Okay. Okay, I want to ask Dave Wynn to come up. And he's doing the MAR JAG report and some very important information on some cultural type things. Watch the wire.
Yeah, there are two prime areas of interest right now. And Don just mentioned in passing that we put up the sukkah. Tomorrow, the sukkah is coming down. And largely, the people that work on it is staff here, but they've asked us to try and help. In order to build the sukkah, we had 5 people. Bob Greenberg, Mike Perloff, myself, Nelson Melitz was there, and Dick Nuff. Randy sent out an email saying, hopefully we can get people doing it tomorrow, and if you're going to come, send Dave Wynn an email. Guess what? I looked at my email. I don't have any. And hopefully we can get a group of people, half a dozen people there tomorrow. Can I ask people to raise their as was stated in that email that went out to everybody, 10 o'clock till about noon, 12:30 maybe, depends how long it takes. And I just want to tell you that the staff does most of the hard work. We just help out, help them out. And it's, even when I can do it with my aches and pains, it's not such a big problem. And you feel very good because you're helping do a community event. So the question I have is anybody here going to be there tomorrow morning with me? Dick is going to be there. I hope to be there. Okay. Don, Mike? Okay. And if anybody else wants to come, it's 10 o'clock, and we meet out here by the sukkah, and last time at the end of the sukkah, they gave us a pizza from the cafe over there and a drink. So, you know, you get a little something also. No Jews get together without having something to eat. Now, the other thing is that I'm kind of like the contact with the JCC. And one of the things they've asked us to do is to try and help out with the Arts, Books, and Cultural Festival. And I'm a patron, and I attend everything, and I'm on the board and all that kind of stuff. Where we are right now is this, that we have a normal men's club meeting on the last Sunday in the month. The Arts, Books, and Cultural Festival is the Sunday before that. So in November, we would normally meet on the 24th of November. Arts, Books, and Cultural is on the 17th of November. They've asked us to help them in terms of plating and... is this still on? No. That push-up button? How about that? They've asked us to help in plating bagels and cakes, and there will be buffet tables set up in here, and to place it out there. Now, what we now have then is that at the Arts, Books, and Cultural Festival, there will be that meal, and there will be 3 speakers. One person will be speaking on, and they're all authors, on his book, which deals with sports heroes of Philadelphia or Pennsylvania, somewhere in this area. The next speaker will be on a Holocaust book, and the third book will be about music of the Second World War, which also is very interesting to me. So what we now have is that for the November meeting, we will have a business meeting earlier than the festival. We won't have our meal there. After we have the business meeting, a group of us will go and help do the plating and everything else. And then there will be the Arts, Books, and Cultural Festival session, and that will be our speakers. So you'll pay the normal $7 that you pay for breakfast. We'll have the business meeting. Those that help. The other people just kill, excuse me, some time. And then you go to that session where you will get brunch rather than breakfast, and then hear the speakers there. So it's a little different, and in some ways I think it's good, because anything that's a little different also kind of brings a little bit interest to people. So I don't know if they want us to give a number of our people that are going to be attending. I'll check that out. But we may need to know ahead of time. The meeting on that day will be in the adult lounge, which is the room as you come in on the right-hand side. You come in and you see it on the right-hand side. I don't know what's happening with my voice, but maybe I better stop talking now. Anybody have any questions on either event that I'm talking about?
What's the time? Is it still the normal time?
We will talk about it. Probably the business meeting will be something like 9 to 10, 9:30 to 10:30. Then the break, the people who are going to be working, plating, and everything else. And again, I assume a fairly good number of people would be willing to do that. We'll go to the kitchen back here, do that, and take the stuff and put it on the table, so it'll be out here. And then, I don't know if it's 11:30 or before, but 11:30 is when it's listed for. The doors will open, and everybody can eat at that time. And then you have the sessions.
Will be a charge, the normal?
Well, what we're doing is charging $7 as we do for breakfast. The normal charge, if you were to attend, would be 10 or something more than it's $10. It's more expensive for anybody from the outside coming in. But if you're coming in with our group, that's why I don't know if they want numbers first, or they're going to give us tickets and we sell it to the people attending the session in the morning. So we'll keep you informed as to how that happens. But it will be cheaper than if you were to come in from the outside. And you will still have food. Now, the food will be different than here. It's going to be bagels, but it's going to be cream cheese with lox in it, or cream cheese with scallions in it. I think there's going to be sliced cheese, and there's going to be dessert from Classic Cake. Okay, any other questions?
And the reason we can't have really a breakfast that day is because we're going to meet in the adult lounge, and that's going to be just about big enough to hold us for a business meeting. We don't have room to set up tables and things like that. So, you know, I hope we have a good turnout. It's really important. You know, Marcy at the JCC has really worked really well with us. That old saying, one hand washes the other. It's been a real good situation for us, and we certainly appreciate all of her help. Also, the JFCS, we had a number of people. I know Ned led that, and we had quite a few people there to help prepare the food, so I wanted to thank those people involved. I don't have their names, I wasn't able to be there. Again, the Sukkah building is tomorrow, or taking down of that. And Ed Silver, if you would come up for the JCRC. Okay.
In terms of other issues besides the JCRC, the Federation is doing a survey to establish needs for the coming 10 years. So you're going to be getting a phone call or an email, and it's going to be on your phone. You've had it already? Yeah, but some of us haven't received the phone calls yet, but on your caller ID it'll say POP or Jewish POP, so you don't have to hang up or not answer the phone. Their main goal is to see what other needs have to be established and met for the Jewish community, especially in counties that have not been that addressed before, Burlington County especially. Yes, Bob?
Cutoff date for it?
I don't know.
I think it's October 5th.
Okay. Just a couple other issues for the JCRC. They're sponsoring a number of events. I'm going to pass these circulars around. October 8th, the daughter of a Holocaust rescuer, a Polish rescuer, is going to be speaking at Lionsgate. That's October 8th, and I'll pass that around. The JCRC is sponsoring all these events. There's going to be an event at the library, Cherry Hill Library, on Slavery by Another Name. It's going to be a film and discussion. A lot of teenagers we hope to be there. I'm told it's going to be a very interesting event. As you know, the JCRC has placed a priority on Israel advocacy, and on Tuesday, November 21st, Neil Lazarus will be presenting on 5 rules of effective Israel advocacy to give you some skills on how to deal with other people when we're discussing the issues in the Middle East. Should be a very interesting program. And lastly, there's going to be a program called Understanding the Complexities of the Middle East. It's with regard to the issues of Israel on the college campuses. That's going to be Thursday, October 3rd. That's going to be here. I'll pass that around. And just one final note with regard to the books. We're also collecting music, CDs, so just don't bring books in. The books and music that are not used here get donated to the JCC here. Okay.
Thank you, Ed.
This survey for the Jewish Federation, is that one person per household does it, or both adults, or what?
No, I took the survey already. The survey is each individual person has their own specific number, and it's an individual response. They do not want family-type responses.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I want to ask Dave to present our guest speaker. And I guess I'll pass that there.
Before I start, I just want to let you know that Jerry Gordon, who's still a member of the men's club, many of you know him, lived in Centennial Mill, which is where I live. He's at an independent facility called Brightview, right on Green Tree. Bob Greenberg did our High Holy Day Mitzvah and went over to see him. And he's been there about a year. And the complex is beautiful, really top shelf. But we spent about an hour with him. He looks good. He remembered us. He didn't really remember me on the phone. He said, "Why are you calling here?" But the two of us went, had a nice visit. He was very appreciative. So if anyone of you want to see him, let me know. I'll be happy to give you the address and phone number of that facility. Jerry Reebstein is going to introduce Lynda Burkett, our guest speaker. And Lynda, thank you for coming today. Just to let you know, next month, October 27th, Rabbi Richard Address, Rabbi of Makor Shalom, who has a radio program, and I believe someone said he just wrote another book, or a book, will be our guest speaker. So we're looking forward to having him here with us. So with further ado, Jerry Reebstein.
Thank you, David. Good morning. David asked me to introduce Lynda because she and I go back quite a number of years as long personal friends, and we do share a large house at the shore for a number of years. And I want to emphasize that this is a personal relationship because when I describe what she does, you'll understand why. Lynda has served as the Victim Witness Coordinator for the Camden County Prosecutor's Office since 1987. And what she does is she supervises a staff of people who help guide the cases through the criminal justice system. And they ensure that the victims of crime and the families of the victims of crime are treated with compassion and respect, and they understand and avail themselves of their rights under the law, and that any needs resulting from their victimization are addressed. That said, it's my pleasure to introduce Miss Lynda Burkett.
On the table. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Thank you so much for having me here this morning. It's a pleasure to be in this room. I didn't see a sign outside that said no girls allowed. However, I get the message. I also want to say thank you for all of the work that you are doing. I have attended several of the breakfasts that you've had for the Law Enforcement Appreciation. I know Mike has been involved in that for many years, and I know that our law enforcement officers, police chiefs, investigators, etc., from the prosecutor's office have attended and have really enjoyed it, and they really appreciate that acknowledgement. I also appreciate the collections that you take, whether it's hospitality supplies or food, because we work very closely with Hillary Platt and folks from Jewish Family and Children's Services, and they do an awful lot of work with victims of domestic violence. Hillary attends a monthly meeting that we have for our domestic violence working group. All of the players, I should say, in agencies and social service groups that help victims of domestic violence, the law enforcement and court personnel as well. We meet on a monthly basis to try to address any gaps in service for victims of domestic violence. And we, Hillary and my unit, work very, very closely together in referrals of victims of domestic violence. So as Jerry said, what I do in the prosecutor's office, and I've been there, it's now my 27th year. Can't believe I've been anywhere that long. And it's been an absolutely wonderful career. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. I have learned so much from it, and I've grown professionally and personally, I think, in the job. When I started, I was the only person in the victim witness unit. I was a unit of one. I am not an attorney. My background in college was elementary education and special education. I graduated with a dual degree. And I worked as a teacher for 5 years in the Neshaminy School District in Bucks County. Loved that. Then I had my 2 daughters, stayed home for 7 years, and I was very happy to be able to do that. I thought that that was really a privilege to be able to stay home with my kids, and I was fortunate to be able to do that. Then went back to work. I worked in retail for a little less than a year. Retail experience gave me the best background of all for doing the work that I do now. Because essentially what I do is sales. I am selling the criminal justice system to people who really don't want to have anything to do with it, to crime victims who have come into this criminal justice system by nothing that they personally have done, but rather something has been done to them. A criminal act has occurred, and they are the victims. So it is my job to sell the investigators, the assistant prosecutors, the criminal justice system to victims, to let them know what they can do as a crime victim, what rights are available to them, how they can avail themselves of services that are there to help them, and to essentially be the crime victim's tour guide. We are the travel experts who help victims navigate their way through the criminal justice system, which is, any attorneys here? What kind of law did you practice?
I have nothing to do with that. I'm a tax lawyer.
Ah, that's fine. But the criminal justice system is defendant. It's very defendant-based and very defendant-focused. And for crime victims to have a say, to have input into the system is relatively new. Victim rights, victim assistance is in its infancy when you compare what victims now can do and what their rights are with what defendants' rights are. It's not a very balanced scale. So 27 years ago, when I first started with the prosecutor's office, there were limited rights for crime victims. Previously, victims really were utilized by the system only when they were needed to testify. They would be brought out, they would get on the stand, they would say whatever they needed to say, and then they were discharged. And there was really not much satisfaction as far as a crime victim went with how they were treated by the personnel and the systems. As a result, there was very little cooperation with victims and witnesses. Very little success then in how cases were prosecuted, because if you don't treat people well, they are not going to help you. They're not going to come forward. They're not going to cooperate. And the sense that they get when they have cooperated is kind of like they've been slimed. You know that feeling. So the victims, back in 1985, there was a New Jersey Crime Victims Bill of Rights, which afforded victims very basic rights. The rights to be notified when cases went through the system and to be informed of all of the stages in the criminal justice system. Victims are entitled to receive information about compensation and restitution, and they're entitled to have certain needs addressed. Back in 1991, we had a Crime Victims' Rights Amendment to the New Jersey Constitution, which is a pretty big deal. And when I tell you what the rights are that victims have, you'll wonder, why do we need a law to codify this? Why do we need this specified in a constitution? But now victims have the right to be treated with compassion, fairness, and respect by the criminal justice system. You need a law, really, to tell you how to treat people with kindness, with fairness, with respect and dignity. But we do, because otherwise it wouldn't happen, necessarily. And victims also, as a result of this constitutional amendment, have the right to be present in the courtroom whenever their cases are heard. That means anytime a defendant is present in court, a victim has the right to be present also. Now, many victims will say, you know what, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to come to court because I miss time from work. It's a headache. I don't want to see the defendant. He scares me. I don't want to have to go through this whole process. It's a pain in the neck, and that's okay. However, they have the right to be there if they want to. For some cases, particularly those involving homicides and vehicular homicides, victims' family members really want to be in court for everything, no matter how small. Even if it's a status conference where a victim or a victim's family is only going to get a new date for the next hearing. They still want to be there because for those victims or victim survivors, as we call them, that's the last thing that they can really do for their loved one. They can be present in court, they can be a witness for their loved one. A lot of what I do, my caseload is primarily working with victims of homicide, their parents, their children, their family members, their victim survivors. So I deal with homicide and vehicular homicide primarily, but I also do a lot of work with victims of domestic violence, and our unit covers every type of victimization. We have 6 victim advocates. We're looking to hire a 7th. We have 2 clerical personnel. One is our unit secretary, and she kind of runs the unit. The other clerical staff member is a post-conviction notification clerk. What she does, she notifies victims when offenders are released from custody. So she not only notifies the crime victim, but she also notifies the law enforcement agency in the jurisdiction where the crime occurred, where the victim resides, and where the offender is going to reside. So we send out tens of thousands of notifications. We may eventually go to an email system. You were talking about emailing for your purposes here. Right now, I'm not quite sure how we would go about it, although this is something we are looking into to be able to notify victims by way of email. But tens of thousands of notifications every year to victims and witnesses, letting them know the status of their case, because as the New Jersey laws specify, it's our obligation to make sure that they are aware of those notifications. So not only are we letting victims know about the court status and we're going to court, we provide a great deal of court accompaniment. Last week and the week before, I was accompanying a victim's family to trial. It was a homicide trial. And I've been involved with this family for 3 years because in cases involving homicides, it can take 3 years from the date of the offense itself till the time that the matter comes to court for trial. And in the interim, we've had lots of status conferences and pre-trial conferences and all sorts of things, meetings with the family to keep them apprised of any negotiated possible agreements. But 3 years it took to come to trial. So that's a very grueling process, and the criminal justice system often gets in the way of victims dealing with the grief of the loss. They cannot grieve totally until this, it's put on hold until you've got some sort of resolution. So for the family of this particular homicide, there was a guilty verdict, guilty of murder and related offenses, and we were pleased that the jury found that they saw what we were trying to present to them. But for our victim's family, what they said was, well, we lost our son 3 years ago. They're going to lose their daughter now. So it's really, you feel for everyone involved in this. There are no winners. There are no clear winners, that's for sure. But it's our job as victim advocates to help victims to deal with whatever the aftermath is of their victimization, whether it's theft. As our population is aging, we're seeing a lot more identity theft. We are seeing more financial crime. So, you guys do whatever you can to secure your finances. And don't give away any personal information on the telephone. You know that already, I'm sure. Don't give out your social security number, your date of birth, anything like that. Do not do that. If anybody needs that information, they will contact you by mail. You can always research who it is that wants that information, but don't give that stuff out over the phone. We are dealing with a lot of, right now the hot topic is human trafficking. So I'm sure you hear that as a result of the Super Bowl coming in, there's going to be an awful lot of also women, young boys perhaps being trafficked into this area, to New York and North Jersey, but also this area as well, because we have access turnpike-wise to New York and the Meadowlands area. So now the drive is on for human trafficking. There are funds and efforts in that regard. But child abuse, child sexual abuse, domestic violence, kidnappings, you read about it. We deal with all of those victims. Any crime that occurs in Camden County, they are my victims. They are victims that we can assist. So what kinds of services are there for crime victims? First and foremost, there's a state agency that exists to help innocent victims of crime with out-of-pocket, uninsured medical expenses, counseling expenses. We had a homicide that occurred in Gloucester Township a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. And one of the services that we provided almost immediately was crime scene cleanup. Now, who would have thought of that 27 years ago? There wasn't any agency that provided that kind of service. And when a crime occurs and there's blood or there's other kinds of evidence around, even when police officers come in and they dust for prints, you know, that black fingerprint powder that you see in CSI? That stuff it's a holy mess to try and clean that stuff up. So we now have agencies that are specially trained and specially certified for biohazards and different kinds of cleanup. And they come in and they will sanitize what they can sanitize, clean carpets, clean furniture. They will remove furniture that is damaged beyond. They will recarpet and they will paint, you know. And so the victim came back to the house and after this incident had occurred and was just so delighted with the services of Crime Scene, this agency that does that service. So the Victims of Crime Compensation Office, this state agency that provides funding, how is it funded? Not through your tax dollars. Good to know, right? So it is funded by penalties that are assessed to criminal defendants. If you sit in court at sentencing, you will hear that defendants are sentenced to a certain number of years, either state prison or county jail or probation, conditions of which include maybe restitution to the victim and different fines and penalties. Victims of Crime Compensation penalty assessments, $100 for every count in the indictment. And if for municipal court, it's $50. That money goes into a huge fund, and from that fund, victims can apply for money to help with funeral expenses. They pay up to $5,000 towards funeral expenses. Any of you who have had to arrange for funeral expenses, you know that $5,000 doesn't really go all that far, but it's something. So, and this can help families who prepares for funeral expenses, really. A lot of our victims just don't do that. So it can also pay for medical expenses and counseling expenses for victims who've been traumatized physically or emotionally by a crime. If a victim happens to be home when someone attempts to break in and damage is done either to the door or windows, that sort of thing, the Victims of Crime Compensation Office can help with expenses related to that as well. So we help victims to fill out the claim applications for that. We help to hook them up with counseling. If you were an attorney and if you dealt in the area of family law, and we were looking for an attorney to help a victim of domestic violence with her divorce or separation agreement or that sort of thing, we would have to ask you a lot of questions because attorneys who deal with family law don't always know about the dynamics of domestic violence and how a volatile, contentious, dangerous relationship can affect the negotiation procedures. In divorces, it always helps to have even-sided, balanced fairness with negotiations. In domestic violence relationship, there is no such fairness and balance. And so we would want to refer that person to an attorney who was comfortable dealing with domestic violence and was aware of those dynamics and how that impacts the relationship and finances and access to everything. Also, therapy. We make a lot of referrals for therapists for our victims, and not every therapist is comfortable dealing with victims who have experienced traumatic violence, victims who may be suffering from post-traumatic stress, victims who have had terrible things happen to them, because a lot of counselors are comfortable dealing with relationship issues or, certain depression and things that come up, but are they comfortable dealing with the effects of trauma? That's a subspecialty that, over the years, over 27 years of talking with victims and seeing what helps them and what is good for them, we've learned a lot in what to do and what not to do. I am a victim assistance specialist, but crime victims are the experts, and they're the ones who have taught me over the years. As you know, my background was in education. I've since gotten a master's in criminal justice with specialty in restorative justice and trying to restore a balance, trying to repair the harm. Yes?
In my working life, when I was a principal, unfortunately, I had to deal with some cases of sex offenders
right.
and the victims in it. What always bothered me was that the sex offenders seemed to have more rights than the victim. The prosecutor's office would tell me what level they are, and that would be the information that I could share with parents. And quite honestly, I felt I was not able to share as much information as I wanted in order to protect other children.
Right.
And I felt very restrictive. I thought we were looking after the sex offender more. And yet I was allowed. What I did is I just told all the parents there's a state police website that you could call up, plug in your zip code or your town, and it'll list all the sex offenders. I was allowed to do that.
Right.
But in cases that were more specific, I was restricted.
It's not a balanced system, as I said before, and the rights really are balanced on the side of the defendant, particularly in cases like this. And I must give you the warning that yes, there are the sex offenders who have been arrested and convicted are listed on the website. However, there are plenty of sex offenders who have not been caught yet. So that's really good, I think, in one degree. And what happens with a case involving a sexual assault of a student upon a student, oftentimes it's the kids, the friends take sides. And the friends oftentimes will take sides of the defendant rather than side of the victim, making it a very uncomfortable place for a victim to go to school. So we run into terrible peer pressure and a lot of coercion and a lot of threats that we have to address.
I also was a principal. In dealing with, in your aspect of domestic violence, do you work in tandem with DIFAS?
Yes. Yes, and DIFAS has come a long way, actually. They now have domestic violence specialists, people who work within DIFAS who are specially trained in domestic violence, who have a better understanding when somebody, one of their clients discloses something. They now do a routine screening to determine if there is domestic violence. Some are better than others. You know that working where you've worked. You know that some DIFAS workers too are better than others, but we do a lot of training with DIFAS in the area of child sexual abuse, the area of domestic violence. We work with medical professionals as well. I'm a part of a training for Cooper Hospital. So everyone, soup to nuts, who is employed by Cooper Hospital goes through a CADA training, Cooper Against Domestic Abuse. And it's domestic violence awareness, sensitivity, training, what to do, how to ask certain questions, and how to address some of the issues when someone is a victim of domestic violence.
When DIFAS is adequately staffed, they do a pretty good job.
Of course.
The adequate staff.
Of course, it makes a big difference, and the higher more crowded their workload is, the less time they have to address each individual family and each individual client, and that makes it really difficult for the kids in their care.
My son's a probation manager in southern New Jersey, and he said most of his clients showed no remorse for what they did, won't admit what they did, and really follow P's and Q's to probably get out and continue with what they're going to when they get out. He said there's no real answer to anything.
The system is broken.
Right.
And I have a lot of personal opinions about why that occurs. I'm certainly not an expert, but the way we historically have treated juvenile offenders are not treated harshly the first time they offend, or the second, or the third, or the fourth, or the fifth, and they keep coming back to court. And the judge wags his finger at them and tells them, next time I'm really going to get serious with you. You really have to buckle down. You really have to, the kids tune out. They tune out their parents and they tune out the judge, who is a parental figure. And they, when they're being admonished by the court, they are not listening. They're not listening. The penalties are not harsh enough. They're not really getting the message. I'd like to see more victim-offender dialogue, because I think that has some impact when a victim, whether it's a juvenile or an adult, offenders don't always, most times, they don't understand the impact of their act upon the victim. They don't understand how this affects not only the victim, but also the victim's family and the community at large. They don't. So I've actually sat with victims and offenders in a couple of instances, about 4 instances involving vehicular homicide, where the victim's family has sat with the offender, and they've really talked about the impact. That, I think, has a tremendous impact. And I think that those people who have participated in it have really been powerfully affected. I also sat in on, facilitated one of these with a bias incident, and that too was very, very effective. I think, there needs to be more of a personal component. And when the courts become involved, you have a disconnect between the victim and the offender. The offender's attorney will say you're not to have any contact with the victim or victim's family. If you do, you're in trouble. What happens to this when you have a homicide? Victim's family members are always saying to me, I wish they had said, if they just said, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry for what my kid did. I'm really sorry this happened. But they're not allowed to. So by the time a defendant is sentenced, 3 years, 3.5 years after it's too little, too late, which is what I hear all the time.
We have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions.
I just wanted to know, you don't get involved with child abuse, do you? Victims
Yes.
of child abuse?
Yes. And recently, this past year, we've had 2 absolutely horrendous cases, which have so impacted our investigators and the responding officers that a couple of officers are still out and probably will not return to law enforcement. They were just so devastating. You think you've seen it all. In 27 years, I still haven't. I am still horrified by things that come in. It may take a little bit more for me to be horrified, but I am still able to be affected by that. Anybody else have a question that I haven't addressed? Yes?
Do you have a counterpart in Berlin?
I do. Yes.
Every county?
Yes. Every county prosecutor's office has a victim witness coordinator, and every county prosecutor's office has a victim witness unit. In my unit, I have advocates assigned to different units within the office: homicide, major crimes, child abuse, domestic violence, juvenile. But we're all cross-trained. Everybody does everything.
Just one quick question. If I suspect spousal abuse, someone comes into my office, what's my responsibility? To report it? What happens if I'm wrong?
Well,
you know what I'm saying? The patient comes in.
Are you a physician?
Yeah.
Okay.
The patient comes in, has an eye injury. I fix the eye injury. A month later comes in, has another eye injury. I'm suspecting something. What do I do?
You only have that patient in there with you.
Yeah.
The other family member's not there.
But she says, I fell down, whatever.
Okay.
I know something happened.
Here's what I would say. I'm concerned about your safety. I'm concerned about your physical safety. I actually was asked, as a sidebar, by my physician, gynecologist, do I feel safe at home? So those are the kinds of questions that you can ask. Do you feel safe at home? What I would say to your person is, I'm concerned about you. I'm concerned about your safety, your physical safety, your emotional safety. And if you are being hurt, I'm also concerned about your children, because are there children at home? Okay, because maybe now it's you, maybe later it'll be your child who tries to get in the way of someone hurting you. That's what happens.
In the school system, if when I was a principal or any of my staff suspected that there could be any type of child abuse, we, by law, had to report it, or it was a misdemeanor on us.
Right.
And we're not allowed to investigate, we just turn it over.
That's child abuse.
But let's say
Domestic violence, you're not
I
mandated
suspect
to report
something,
it.
and I do report it, but it turns out not.
Right.
Now, what's going to come back on me now that I started all this?
Well, your relationship, the therapeutic and treating relationship you have will be changed, and that person will go on to somebody else. But keep it open in the beginning.
Like in Florida, my sister got a knock on her door one day. My little nephew was talking to one of his friends how his big brother beats him up. Well, the bus driver heard this, reported it. For like 3 months, she had to go through all this garbage. I mean, it's good, but it's,
Sometimes you overprotect in order to protect.
But just say, I'm concerned for your safety. If you are being hurt, if you are in an abusive relationship, then the abuse will get more frequent and it will get worse.
Isn't there a difference between reporting a child?
Yes.
We would do, but an adult is a little different.
Yes.
We're safe harmless.
There is,
I'm not sure we're safe harmless.
I don't know.
for child abuse, you're a mandated reporter. For domestic violence, no. Okay? So that's the difference.
There's actually more to it than that, because you have a physician.
That's
patient.
Correct, yeah.
So anything that the patient reveals to you, you're
Well, but if it's child abuse, you must report it.
Right,
Yeah. But always let that person know that there's help out there if they want to report it. If not now, then later when they're ready. Okay, but just say, I'm concerned about you. You don't deserve to be abused. Nobody does. If you would like to talk about it, I'm here to listen. Okay?
But I guess the denial must be a big part of it too, I would think.
Absolutely. Minimization and denial. Yeah. And there are lots of reasons why people stay in abusive relationships. Thank you so much.
Lynda, thank you for a very interesting presentation. We'd like to give you that certificate, and we really appreciate your spending some time with us today.
Thank you.
I'll get that.
I have some information for you on that table. There are brochures that we hand out to crime victims, but each one is for victims of adult offenders, the goldenrod one. Pardon?
Put that between you and Don, like that.
Before we do the 50-50, Lynda, I'm going to ask you to pull out the, just one thing we didn't cover. We did start our fantasy football league. Those people that are owners, just raise your hands, you get an idea. We're having a real lot of fun with it. Today is week 4. I have to say that I believe I'm still in first place, but I'm not going to be after today because my tight end, I forgot to start. So I'm playing one player short, but we're having a lot of fun. I hope some of you might consider getting involved and joining us next year. It really is a lot of fun. Okay.
It's legal, right?
Oh, it's absolutely, we never do anything illegal. If we did, we wouldn't have.
8 million other leagues in the country.
You'll pull one through. 42 is the winning amount.
42.
And by coincidence, the winning number is 42 6711. 426711. We have a winner Indeed. Did I miss anything?
Investment Club.
Investment Club is meeting, I guess, right here.
Right here after the meeting.
Everybody, thank you for a great meeting. Appreciate it.